Hi, everyone. This is Lawrence Watkins, and welcome to the Financial Juneteenth 5. These are my five favorite articles as it relates to Black wealth, finance, and business for today, October 14th, 2020. Let's go ahead and get started. All right. So, the first article today comes from Fortune magazine, and it states: "Are college degree requirements holding Black job seekers back?" And this looks like to be, or I believe it's an opinion piece written by, what's the brother's name? Michael Collins. And this is something that he specializes in. But in the article, he's talking about the bachelor's degree requirement for many corporations and whether or not these types of requirements are holding back Black job seekers. So here's a stat that I found interesting. It says since 1972, the Black unemployment rate has been double the rate for whites. That gap has narrowed only slightly. The Black unemployment rate still stands at 12.1% compared to a white unemployment rate of 7%. And the main thesis of this article is because in our haste to get Black Americans back to work, we may overlook the potential to create a more inclusive, equitable post pandemic workforce. Research suggests that short term training programs now in vogue among many policy elites may not yield the sort of sustainable wage gains that policymakers and employers are expecting. And what comes to my mind is Google, and Google is actually getting rid of its college degree requirement in order or in changing that with a certificate or degree program which you can go through on Google. So Google's looking forward to disrupting the whole higher education space. But he's asking, are companies like Google and others, is this type of new business model, is that going to actually end up being good for Black workers? So this says, it turns out that the overemphasis on short-term credentials to get Black Americans back to work is short-sighted and temporary solution. For economic equity and justice, we need to make sure that the short-term programs complement degrees rather than replace them, and that we increase access to longer-term credentials such as bachelor's and graduate degrees. The economic ceiling for Americans who have not completed college stems in part from college degree requirements that often slam the door on qualified Black and other minority job applicants. This stat states a 2017 HBS study, so Harvard Business School study analysis basically said that there's a high degree of degree inflation as well, and it was responsible for as many as 6.2 million workers potentially missing out on job opportunities. And he goes on to talk a little bit more about the job inflation that's going on, and also who was to benefit and who did not really recover from the 2008, 2007, 2008 financial crisis. So he goes on to state of the 7 million net jobs lost during the economic downturn that followed the financial crisis in 2007. Nearly all were occupied by workers holding less than a bachelor's degree, but only 3.2 million of those jobs added during the recovery went to that population. And the vast majority of those people, or those were people with an associate degree or at least some degree of college education. So I found this article to be very interesting. He closes out by saying, for Black Americans, fundamental changes in both hiring practices and bachelor's degree attainment must be equal partners in an equitable economic recovery. So this was posted in Fortune today, and Michael Collins is the VP of Jobs for the Future. He previously served as Assistant Commissioner for Participation and Success at the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board. So, for those interested in the general economy and how African Americans fit into that and what we can do to continue to increase our position, I think this is a great article for you. The next article comes from TechCrunch. It says Black VC, which is a networking organization for Blacks in the VC area. Or industry, excuse me. Black VC launches educational initiative to bring more Black entrepreneurs into the investing ecosystem. So the crux of the argument or the article states that Black VC, along with partners Operator Collective, Salesforce Ventures, and the Haas School of Business at Berkeley University, or University of Berkeley, excuse me, is hoping to change that. And today, the group announced the Black Venture Institute, an educational initiative dedicated to helping Black operators become angel investors. The program has a goal of training 300 students over the next 3 years to create a network of Black investors and advisors who can begin writing checks and making or to make investments. So Frederick Gross, I'm not sure how you say his name, Gross, I'm not exactly sure. He's the principal at Storm Ventures and the co-founder of Black VC. Says that venture capital clearly has an access problem, and the program is trying to open up these closed networks. It is these closed networks that have helped contribute to the lack of access for the Black community over the years. Venture Institute is a structural attempt to create access for Black operators from engineers to product managers. So I think this is an awesome venture that they're actually working on, and much success to them. There was an interesting stat in here too. So it says to give you a sense of what Black founders are up against. A 2018 Harlem Capital report found that since 2000, the previous 18 years to that point, just 105 firms with all Black founders received funding of $1 million or more. These numbers are stark and point to unequal funding climate and the need for more programs like this one. So I guarantee you, amongst the general population, there was way more than 105 firms that received funding of $1 million or more. But yeah, check this article out if you are in the tech space, and go ahead and apply for the program. I actually might apply and try to get the Black Business School integrated into their network because we have a lot of crowdfunding initiatives coming out and an investor network that we're going to be launching soon as well. The next article comes from Wired in the UK. So it states Black employees are being asked to fix institutional racism. Rather than spend money, companies are tasking their Black employees with solving corporate diversity issues. So the article starts off talking about, of course, George Floyd and what's going on in America. But it talks about companies. So it says rather than senior leadership doing the legwork, the responsibility has fallen to non-white hires who are not remunerated for additional labor or diversity and inclusion officers, some newly contracted in the wake of the Black Lives Matter movement. So basically, they're trying to find the first Black person they can find, and asking them what their opinion is on as it relates to what they can do, the companies can do to solve their problems. So this quote comes from Bayo Adilaha, who is a diversity and inclusion consultant. She states a lot of organizations are ill prepared to deal with these sorts of things and aren't actually particularly interested in actioning change. They say we're educating ourselves, but don't know how to actually fix the problems at hand. So look to those who have actually experienced those things. The problem with that is that the Black people within an organization don't usually have the power to fix anything. This is an interesting article talking about basically the UK is having a lot of the same challenges and issues that we're having in the United States around this notion of diversity and inclusion. I'm curious to know if the DNI consultant will actually have the power to change anything as well. So that's not something that they actually address in this article, but it's an important question to bring up. It states, while some companies have taken the steps to address structural inequality via workshops and unconscious bias training, it's often the case that sustained effort is needed to really result in any concrete change. But if you're out there and you want to get into the diversity and inclusion space, it looks like they are definitely hiring right now. So go out there and get your money. The next article is an opinion piece from Ryan Williams. So he's one of the leading Black entrepreneurs, especially in the real estate space right now. So he's talking about investing in Black owned banks, the key to ending racial disparities. So he got his start before he started the company Cadre back in 2014, which is in the real estate investing space. He got his start with a black bank. A black bank is one of the banks that took a risk on him, and it has paid off substantially so far. So there are 4,700 banks in the United States that hold a combined 20.3 trillion dollars of assets. But as of 2019, only 21 of those banks are black owned or led, and those have a total asset value of just above $5 billion. So they keep talking about black wealth here, and this stat show that black wealth hasn't really changed since the Civil War, which is quite sad. But I think we're going to be the generation to actually change that. It states black-owned, community-focused banks offer much-needed capital and access to financial services for countless people who have been overlooked by major national banks. So he told a little bit about his story. So he states, I spoke with more than 10 banks and was turned down by all but one, despite having a compelling business plan, strong investors behind our partnership, and a strong financial background. The one bank that agreed to provide me with a loan was Citizens Trust Bank, an institution founded in 1921 by five black businessmen to promote greater economic prosperity for individuals. And then he goes on to talk a little bit more in regards to how black banks, and what they need to do in the peace in American society and in African American society that they actually hold. So it's a great read. I will definitely check it out. The link will be in the description, but that was posted on CNBC earlier today. The last article comes from the Washington Post, and hopefully I didn't lose. Oh, there we go. Comes from the Washington Post, and it's titled "CBS is remaking its police shows for the Black Lives Matter era. A novel partnership sends police reform advocates into the writers' room. Can it work?" And I thought this article was interesting because it's a mixture of what happens in popular culture with media, and then how in business, and how all of that is taking place in the environment of Black Lives Matter and racial justice that's going on right now, as well as the COVID era also. So, the main point of the article states the meeting is a part of an ambitious effort by one of the most influential producers of popular entertainment, CBS Studios, to confront the potential influences of its shows, of its shows in incidents like the killings of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd by police. In what is believed to be a television first, the entertainment firm has hired 21 CP to help shape its shows. Normally tasked with remaking police departments, the group has been recruited to change how law enforcement is portrayed on television. So the deal represents a new kind of Hollywood, one willing to bring change into the most sacred spaces, the writers' room. So this is an interesting strategy by CBS, and CBS really is taking the lead in terms of changing and trying to find accurate images as it relates to policing in America in 2020. This actually reminds me of I believe it was Fox. So Fox had the show, what was it called, 24, with Kiefer Sutherland, and it had the first black president on the show. I can't remember the brother's name, but he's the Allstate guy now. But he played the first black president, and then a couple years later, we actually had Barack Obama as the true first black president in the United States. So it shows how media can influence the direction and culture of the United States and of the world, and why this is such an important thing. So this was a stat about CBS. It states the three most watched scripted shows in the 2019-2020 network television season were all made and aired on CBS, and it all revolved around crime fighting. Blue Bloods, FBI, and NCIS. The last one is watched by an average of more than 15 million people each week, making it the most viewed program on television, not named Sunday Night Football. So this is, if you're looking to see how entertainment really affects your day to day life, and how, or not day to day, but affects the world and the making of the United States. This is an excellent article, but it closed out with a little bit of a warning. Let me find it here. So it states CBS has to be careful not to alienate its core audience, which is not considered highly activist. The network skews older. At the start of last season, the age of its average viewer was 63, the oldest among the four broadcast networks. In a climate where so much of public life and pop culture has been politicized, inserting too much reform talk into escapist entertainment could be tricky. So those are some of the things that CBS has to deal with and work through as a leader in corporate media. But those are my top five articles of the day. Before you get out of here, please make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the Financial Juneteenth channel if you like this information we presented today. Also, this is just a test run of the Financial Juneteenth 5 segment. So we have about 5 more weeks to determine if we want to continue doing the FJT. So if you like this segment or have any ideas for improvements, please go ahead and post comments in the chat, and we would really appreciate that. So my name is Lawrence Watkins on behalf of Financial Juneteenth. Take care, be blessed, and